Ladies and gentlemen, may we have your attention, please? We ask that you familiarize yourselves with the nearest marked exits as a cautionary procedure prior to our commencement ceremony today. In the event of an actual emergency, please remain calm, and public safety and security officials will direct you to specific locations where detailed instructions will be provided for you as needed. Thank you for your cooperation.
Good morning. The 259th commencement of the University of Pennsylvania will now begin.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail through the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
What a glorious morning for a glorious graduating class. Friends, will you please join me in the spirit of prayer for our invocation? It is fitting, O gracious one, that the Penn community gather here within the red bricks of Franklin Field, beneath the blue sky above, as we celebrate the graduating class of 2015. For our graduates, this is a day of gratitude for all that they've learned, all whom they've met, all that they've done. Gratitude for all who've helped them get to this moment, those sitting right next to them, and those proudly gazing from the stands. May these graduates also know how thankful we are for them, for all that they've given our university. This is also a day of pride, rightfully so, for all that they've accomplished in the classrooms, on our fields and courts, on the stage, in our hospitals, and as agents of change in our community. May these proud graduates know that we are proud of them as well. Today is also tinged with a little bit of sadness at having to leave behind friends who become family, a school that's become a home. May these graduates know that we too are sad to see them go, for they have been a truly exceptional class. Yet beyond all else, commencement is a day of celebration, a chance for us to celebrate these amazing students, all that they've done and all that they will do. May today be filled with joy, like spring fling on a Monday morning. Well, not exactly like fling, Lord. We pray your blessing on this ceremony and on the unparalleled class of 2015. Amen. Please be seated.
Good morning. Please welcome Penn President Amy Gutmann.
Wow, welcome everyone to the 259th commencement of the University of Pennsylvania. Chairman Cohn, trustees, Ambassador Power, honored guests, alumni, family, and friends, I give you the great class of 2015. Penn is a community where everything is nearby and everyone interacts. Graduates, you have spent your time here within a few minutes' walk of everything important. Your classmates, your professors, Penn's libraries and laboratories, the Greek lady. Your life at Penn has been shaped by proximity. Living as I do, on campus, in the President's house. Yes, I do live in the President's house. Some may not call it living, but I do. I'm surrounded by so many of you, and I know just how energizing proximity can be. Michael and I have even found ourselves loudly energized by your proximity at 3 or 4 in the morning. Your Penn experience also reveals a profound insight. Diverse individuals interacting in close contact strike sparks of creativity. New ideas arise in each of us from unexpected connections. When diverse people live and work closely together, societies also make leaps to new discoveries. But what differentiates proximity that is creative from stifling overcrowding? Why does one grouping give us the Harlem Renaissance or Tin Pan Alley, while another only sterile monotony or urban despair? The difference, I think, often stems from our welcoming and benefiting from exposure to the world. Those who see only my street, my family, my tribe, may only see a future that looks exactly like their past. Creativity, by contrast, booms when people joyfully expose themselves to a larger world. Now, exposure, I have observed, is a funny thing. You can die from it, you can be arrested for it, or it can enrich your life immensely. Your experience at Penn has been this joyful yet challenging kind of exposure, enriching your lives through a more global perspective. Your campus home has been a map of the world in miniature. No fewer than 90 countries are represented among the members of the undergraduate class of 2015. You transcend oceans and mountains. You cross borders built by geography and society. You leap boundaries made by history, ideology, and faith. When I talk about bringing the world to Penn and Penn to the world, I'm describing something infinitely more profound than time zone differences and jet plane travel. I'm imagining the future, and I'm talking about you.
Saya daripada Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Mifri Takwa, Ghana.
मैं आबू धाबी से हूँ।
I am from Jacksonville, Florida.
I'm from Anchorage, Alaska.
Soy de Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Ninatoka Nairobi, Kenya.
我来自金门市，中国。
Я из Киева.
Je suis de Paris, en France.
We are in Atlanta, Georgia.
We are in Singapore.
Jackson, Mississippi.
Chúng tôi đang ở Hà Nội, Việt Nam.
Nós estamos em Brasília, no Brasil.
Orlando, Florida.
Harare, Zimbabwe.
Kahira, from us.
Rockaway, New York.
We are in Philadelphia.
Penn in the world. Saya membawa dunia ke Penn.
Penn en el mundo.
El mundo está en Penn.
Penn. I bring the world to Penn.
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 Wiase afanan nyinaa ɛwɔ Penn.
Penn.
Penn. The world at Penn.
Yes, I'm proud to say this may be the only commencement speech ever to include the theme song from Game of Thrones. The contrast is most fitting. After all, our commencement speaker will be talking about what she's seen working at the United Nations. One is a tale of the titanic struggle of wills and a world perpetually at the edge of catastrophe. And the other is a story about Westeros. Truly, it is no coincidence that Game of Thrones has become a runaway hit. Despite the magic and giants, the White Walkers and dragons, we all can identify something real in Westeros. It's the story of a world defined by tribal politics, a world governed through naked power, driven by violent history and ancestral hatred. I cannot help but see in it a world that is uncomfortably close to parts of our own. Its central image is a throne of swords. Its central location, a 700-foot tall wall of ice that tries but fails to keep the other removed. When you rule on an iron throne, walls and barriers are essential to survival. By contrast, the time you have spent at Penn has made you adept at crossing borders and leaping boundaries. But iron thrones and walls of ice persist in our world. For as many border crossings as we celebrate, there are many more who seek to close those borders down. They seek to rid themselves of those they consider alien, and they insist on focusing inward. My street, my family, my tribe. You are the antidote. Because you have embraced the world at Penn, you stand ready to move the world beyond hostility and hatred, and it's a good thing, too. Your global perspective is what our world needs to confront many challenges. As border crossers, many of you are already setting out to deliver clean water and affordable health care to underserved communities. Thank you and congratulations on that. You are setting out to provide universal education and leadership opportunities for girls and boys alike, wherever they live. Thank you for that. And you are organizing broad coalitions in defense of immigration reform so that our national borders are not barriers to economic and social justice. Bravo, and may you and may we succeed. And that's just the start. By exposing yourself to a world of differences, you will continue to make great, innovative leaps. So my own life began with a leap, though I was not around to witness it. It is the year 1934. It is Nazi Germany. and one young man chooses to flee the only home he and his family had ever known. That young man was my father. He traveled to India. He started a business. He began life anew. He got his whole family out. He might have remained in India for the rest of his days. But after 14 years, he took another leap, this time to the United States for a cross-country trip, where he met a young woman from New York City. Anybody from New York City here? My mom had never left the East Coast of the United States, and my father had arrived anew from India. A wedding, a newlywed jaunt to India and back. That was a Freudian slip. There weren't joints back then. A wedding, let me repeat it correctly. A wedding, a newlywed jaunt together to India and back. And the outcome stands before you today. When I talk to you of the life-enhancing consequences of leaping boundaries and crossing borders and a global perspective, I know whereof I speak. In 2006, I went back to where my story began, to India. I wanted to visit the house where my father lived so many years ago. I was welcomed in by a prominent Indian doctor living there now with his family. And he shared stories with me from when he was just a young child. Some of his stories were about a man from Germany. I remember your father, the doctor told me as I sat on the couch with him and his family. He was a very nice man, and he was very good at business. But he spoke Hindi with a foreign accent. So naturally, I thought he was secretly a spy. Truth in point, when we live globally, we must expect the unexpected. Today, each of you crosses a very special border between your years as a student and your worldly achievements to come. The unexpected awaits you, and no one can tell you exactly what will come. But I can tell you this. We here today are sure of your abilities, we are confident of your opportunities, and we are very proud of the good you now go forth to do, crossing borders and leaping boundaries. So I ask everybody, from all corners of the globe and across all borders, stand together with me now, moms and dads, spouses and partners, grandmas and grandpas, sisters and brothers, family and friends, our honored guests, trustees, faculty. Please stand and show our 2015 graduates who are about to cross borders and leap boundaries just how proud we are of them. Thank you. Enjoy.
As Provost, it's my great pleasure to acknowledge the many awards and distinctions accorded our faculty and students this year. Their achievements, many of which are listed in your commencement program, bring honor both to them and to the university and deserve our full recognition. I urge your special attention To those members of the faculty who have been honored for their teaching, the 8 recipients of the Lindback Teaching Award, the 4 recipients of the Provost's Awards, and those faculty who have been accorded teaching awards from their individual schools. I would also like to recognize those members of our faculty who have stepped down after many years of distinguished service. These dedicated scholars have devoted their careers to the acquisition of knowledge and have shared their wisdom and their insights with students, inspiring them in their own intellectual pursuits. Faculty members who have retired after a lifetime of scholarship and teaching exemplify the high ideals to which all of us in the Academy aspire. Several members of the class of 2015 have distinguished themselves in their academic studies and in their service to the university. I will first name those receiving senior class awards and leadership awards, and then acknowledge those receiving academic honors. Please stand when I announce your name and remain standing until I have completed the list. And I ask the audience to please hold your applause until all of the award recipients have been announced. Those receiving senior class honor awards are Denzel Cummings, the Spoon; Gabriel Jimenez, the Bowl; Taylor Culliver, the Cane; Rishi Simha, the Spade; Ariel Corin, the Althea K. Hottle Award; Joyce Kim, the Gaylord P. Harnwell Award; Victoria Ford, the David R. Goddard Award; Jordan Feingold, the Argene Brownlee Award. Those seniors receiving leadership awards are Isaac Lin, Asian Alumni Network Student Leadership Award; Augustina Eskenazi and Megan Rose Markham, the Association of Alumni Father's Trophy; Adisa Williams, Association of Alumni Robert J. Alig Sr. Award; Emmanuel Martinez, Association of Latino Alumni Student Leadership Award; Talon Duchenu, Association of Alumni Student Leadership Award; Makini Hughes, Black Alumni Society Student Leadership Award; Catherine Mateo, James Brister Society Student Leadership Award; Marcus Lacroix, Class of 1915 Award; Juan Gomez, Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender Alumni Association Student Leadership Award; Julie Clanahan, the William A. Levy Kite and Key Award for Service and Scholarship. The winners of the President's Engagement Prizes are Jody Feinberg, Shadrach Frimpong, Caitlin Grasso, Adrian Liavano, and Matthew Lyle. The winners of the Saul Feinstone Undergraduate Award are Dhruv Maheshwari, Catherine Mateo, and Nikhil Rajapurnam. The winners of the Penn Alumni Student Award of Merit are Don Androphy, Jesus Fuentes, Caitlin Grasso, and Tess Michaels. The Penn Student Agencies Award goes to Natalie Miller. The Trustees Council of Penn Women Michelle Huber and Brian D. Giles Award goes to Elise Minkin. The Trustees Council of Penn Women Student Leadership Award goes to Madeline Stevens. And the James Howard Weiss Memorial Award goes to Jody Feinberg. Please join me in applauding these outstanding young men and women. You may sit down. And now I would like to acknowledge those who have been elected to the Principal Undergraduate and Graduate Honor Societies. Please stand when I name each society. Phi Beta Kappa, Matthew Cryer Honor Society, Omicron Kappa Upsilon, Eta Kappa Nu, Tau Beta Pi, Alpha Omega Alpha, Gold Humanism Honor Society, Sigma Theta Tau, Phi Zeta, and Beta Gamma Sigma. Will all those students who are the recipients of various prizes and awards granted by their schools and departments, and those who by their academic achievements have earned scholarships for advanced study, please also rise. I ask you to join me in saluting these outstanding young men and women.
Five days ago, I became the chair of the Faculty Senate of the University of Pennsylvania. I note with pride that Penn is one of only 3 of our Ivy League peer institutions to support an independent Senate representative of the entire university. So on behalf of the 4,555, give or take a dozen, faculty members, welcome. In addition to educating and mentoring you this academic year, Penn faculty have employed gene therapy to cure hereditary forms of human blindness, developed a topological insulator that may one day lead to a quantum computer, won a MacArthur Genius Award, discovered even more cancers that can be treated effectively with chimeric antigen receptor T-cell therapy, won several Guggenheim Fellowships, and expanded the horizons of Penn to Beijing and beyond. Tradition demands that I accomplish 3 tasks as quickly as possible. First, cite the number of Penn faculty. Second, mention Benjamin Franklin. And third, bestow some advice on the graduates. Having accomplished the first 2, let me move to the most important. Today, all of you graduates should be full of optimism, likely tinged with a bit of uncertainty about your futures, which is perfectly acceptable. Many of you perhaps believe you have surmounted uncertainty. You have a job, you know where you will live, even with mom or dad, and you have established friendships that you anticipate will last a lifetime. Attaining what you think you want, especially early on, seemingly eliminates uncertainty. You have learned what it feels like to achieve success, like the day you received that fat envelope from Penn Admissions, and today you receive something even more important from Penn. I mention uncertainty with some professional interest, as that concept is a focus of my own research. I'm a medical geneticist, and I have been struck by the irony that as we are able to scrutinize our individual genomes in ever more precise ways, down to 1 nucleotide change out of 6.4 billion, we have more and more difficulty interpreting any given variation. This gives me and my genetic counselors considerable heartburn. My faculty were expected to teach the truth and rid you of uncertainties. However, we are notorious for telling our first-year medical students that 1/2 of what we will teach you will be viewed as incorrect in 10 years. Unfortunately, we just don't know which half. I have no doubt that you, like most humans, have an affinity for certainty. But if you permit me to quote Oliver Wendell Holmes, a graduate and professor of the Penn of the North, Certainty generally is illusion, and repose is not the destiny of man. Despite this advice, I trust that you have learned and accepted that many certainties do exist. Evolution happens, the climate is changing, the universe expands, the Higgs boson exists, vaccines are good, and regardless of who wrote them, there are Shakespearean plays and sonnets. Among the nearly 300,000 living Penn alumni, which you will soon join, some achieved extraordinary success within the past few months, publishing acclaimed books, being elected president of a Federal Reserve Bank, winning an Academy Award, and being named dean of our School of Nursing. While these types of accomplishments may seem out of reach at the moment, take small steps along a selected path. If things do not evolve as you initially hoped, you can change your plan, but only if you have one. Moreover, if you ever consider underestimating yourself, seek help. In conclusion, the faculty members of Penn offer our sincerest congratulations on your many successes.
The honorary degrees will now be conferred. This is a Penn tradition that dates back to the 1750s. The full text of each citation is included in your commencement program. We will begin with Arthur K. Asbury. Your unsurpassed medical career spans more than 6 decades, and you are renowned for the light you have shed on common neurological diseases. A compassionate caregiver, a trusted mentor, and a gifted educator, you have been a beloved member of the Perelman School of Medicine faculty for more than 40 years. Twice you served as interim dean and during a critical time as executive vice president. Your extraordinary legacy will long be celebrated at Penn with the Arthur K. Asbury Award for Outstanding Faculty Mentoring, established in your honor. In recognition of your extraordinary example as a doctor, scientist, and educator, the trustees of the University of Pennsylvania are honored and pleased to confer upon you, Arthur Asbury, the degree of Doctors of Sciences, honoris causa. Lee C. Bollinger. One of the nation's foremost scholars of the First Amendment, you're a powerful voice for freedom of speech and the press. A graduate of Columbia Law School, you served as law clerk for U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice Warren Burger. Years later, as president of the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor, you led the school's litigation in Supreme Court decisions upholding the value of diversity in higher education. As Columbia University's 19th president, you have established global centers for education across 4 continents, distinguishing Columbia among the world's greatest universities. For your leadership in higher education and your enduring contributions to freedom, the trustees of the University of Pennsylvania are honored and pleased to confer upon you, Lee Bollinger, the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. Bravo. Bravo. Joan Myers Brown. You overcame discrimination as an aspiring ballet dancer to become an unsurpassed artist, teacher, and mentor, a spirit emblematic of your native Philadelphia. In 1960, you opened the Philadelphia School of Dance Arts and founded the Philadelphia Dance Company, now a premier dance company known the world over. With great poise, you have persevered through all obstacles, including dance's continuing racial barriers. A founder of the International Conference of Black Dance Companies and co-founder of the Coalition of African American Cultural Organizations, you were presented with the National Medal of Arts by President Obama in 2012. For your devotion to dance, for your devotion to generation of artists, the trustees of the University of Pennsylvania are honored and pleased to confer upon you, Joan Myers Brown, the degree of Doctor of Arts, honoris causa. Rita Moreno. One of a handful to win the Oscar, the Grammy, the Emmy, and Tony Awards, not to mention the Golden Globe. You have built an incomparably wide-ranging career on stage and screen. By your teens, you had appeared on radio and Broadway and in your first film. A contract with MGM led to over 40 films, including your indelible portrayal of Anita in West Side Story. For which you became the first ever Latina actress to win the Academy Award. You are the proud recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the National Medal of Arts. Your artistry is matched by your passion and dedication in fighting against discrimination, breast cancer, hunger, and AIDS. For your perseverance and enduring artistic contributions, the trustees of the University of Pennsylvania are honored and pleased to confer upon you, Rita Moreno, the degree of Doctor of Arts, honoris causa. Ellen Ochoa. The first Hispanic woman to go to space. You are a role model for students everywhere. Your passion for learning led to a Master of Science and a PhD in electrical engineering from Stanford University. Intrigued by the prospect of research in space, you joined the astronaut program, eventually logging nearly 1,000 hours as an astronaut in space. In 2012, you became the first Hispanic director of NASA's Lyndon B. Johnson Space Center in Houston, only the second woman to serve in that role. Among many honors and awards, 4 public elementary and middle schools bear your name. For your courageous service and for inspiring new generations of explorers, the trustees of the University of Pennsylvania are honored and pleased to confer upon you, Ellen Ochoa, the degree of Doctor of Sciences, honoris causa. Samantha Power. You are the youngest person ever to serve as U.S. Permanent Representative to the United Nations. A global thought leader, wise beyond your years, you champion the idea that attending to the world's most pressing inequities is the best way to promote our national interests. After graduating from Yale University, you headed to Bosnia in the midst of genocidal conflict, where you reported for numerous publications. Knowing you could still do more, you returned home to attend Harvard Law. We'll forgive you for that, but you made a lot of it. The war did not leave you. In 2003, your book, A Problem from Hell, America and the Age of Genocide, won the Pulitzer Prize. Invited to join the Obama administration, you became UN ambassador in 2013 for your steadfast leadership, your service to your country, and for advocating the rights of all people. The trustees of the University of Pennsylvania are honored and pleased to confer upon you, Samantha Power, the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. Cass R. Sunstein. Yours is the most frequently cited voice in American jurisprudence, one that has advanced our ability to design policy that promotes good choices and avoids bad ones. A prolific author, your insights inform our national discourse on topics as varied as the health of the Constitution, climate change, gay rights, immigration, and voter registration. President Obama called upon you multiple times to bring your unparalleled insight to an extensive range of issues. First a law clerk for Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall, then a University of Chicago law professor, you are now the founding director of Harvard Law's program on behavioral economics and public policy. For your countless thought-provoking contributions, the trustees of the University of Pennsylvania are honored and pleased to confer upon you, Cass Sunstein, the degree of Doctor of Law, honoris causa.
As Provost, I have the honor of introducing our speaker this morning. Not long ago, President Obama added a new rug to the Oval Office. Woven among the designs were several quotations, including this one: "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." Those words may be familiar. They were spoken by Dr. King on the steps of the state capitol in Montgomery, Alabama, 50 years ago. The president has often turned to the words of Dr. King for inspiration. To help bend the world's arc of morality toward justice, he turned to Samantha Power. For more than 2 decades, Ambassador Power has been our most forceful and articulate advocate for moral action, to halt genocide wherever it occurs, to expose its perpetrators, even or especially when they hide behind a veneer of respectability, and to address violations of human rights and human decencies that shock the conscience of the world. A Pulitzer Prize-winning author and Harvard professor, Samantha Power is perhaps the polar opposite of an ivory-towered academic. She has been on the ground as a reporter in conflict zones around the world, from Bosnia to Sudan. In articles for The New Republic, The Economist, and The New Yorker, she has been unsparing in her criticism of political inertia in the face of genocide. She speaks her mind, and by her own admission, she has ruffled some feathers. Samantha Power currently serves as the 28th United States Ambassador to the United Nations and is a member of President Obama's cabinet. Previously, she was Senior Director for Multilateral Affairs and Human Rights on the National Security Council. She founded the Carr Center for Human Rights Policy at Harvard, where she has also taught U.S. foreign policy, human rights, and UN reform. Eleanor Roosevelt, the first chair of the UN Human Rights Commission, once wrote that we will be the sufferers if we let great wrongs occur without exerting ourselves to correct them. Graduates, I know that you will be guided on your future path by an exceptional education. I also hope that your life will be guided by a firm moral compass, one that arcs toward justice for all people, everywhere, and one that is exemplified by our speaker this morning. Please join me in welcoming Ambassador Samantha Power.
Thank you, Provost Price, President Gutmann, trustees, faculty, alumni, friends, and family, and class of 2015. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? It is an indescribable privilege to share this remarkable day with you. Graduates, you made it. You've got your families and loved ones, people who have been in your corner for as long as you have been breathing, here to hail you, some even up in the cheap seats. You're surrounded by some of the greatest friends you'll ever make, people who will have your backs for decades to come. I'm reminded of the William Butler Yeats poem, which ends beautifully. Think where man's glory most begins and ends, and say my glory was, I had such friends. In many ways, these bonds are every bit as great an achievement as the diploma you may frame. One of my greatest achievements is up here on stage with me today. I got to marry your law school commencement speaker, Professor Cass Sunstein, my best friend. Cass's commencement speech yesterday was about Star Wars and the law. And our 6-year-old, some Jedi Knights in the back, and our 6-year-old Declan insists that his dad's speech is way better than mine. But I'm hoping I get the votes in the over 6 crowd. Cass may be the most cited law professor in the world and the co-inventor of nudging, but in my house, he's better known as the man who will climb onto any roof and into any pond, no matter how gross, to retrieve wiffle balls crushed by Declan, our aspiring major leaguer. And let's be real, none of you graduates and none of us on stage would be here today if we also didn't have a parent, a step-parent, a teacher, or a mentor who hadn't made what mattered to us matter to them through the years. So grads, let's give it up to our parents and our loved ones. Now, looking back on all you've done to get to this point, you should feel a great wind at your backs, and you're gonna need it. Because, class of 2015, the world outside Penn's walls leaves a lot to be desired. That is diplomatic speak for things are really screwed up. Violent extremist groups like ISIL are executing civilians and selling girls like cattle in markets. Russia is using military force to lop off parts of a neighbor's territory. Thousands of migrants, most fleeing brutal wars in Africa and the Middle East, are drowning while trying to cross the Mediterranean. Thousands more Rohingya and Bangladeshi are fleeing persecution and economic despair in Asia. These migrants have been smuggled or trafficked by people who take their money and then abandon them at sea. It feels, as Shakespeare wrote in The Tempest, hell is empty and all the devils are here. Even with all that you've learned in your time at Penn, heading out into a world that looks like ours can feel overwhelming, intimidating, paralyzing even. Where do you start on problems that seem so big and injustices that run so deep? How do you go about making this broken world even a little less broken? I had those same questions more than 2 decades ago when I sat where you are sitting. The challenges that my generation faced also seemed well beyond our reach. And it wasn't as if warlords or dictators were about to stop in their tracks if they saw a liberal arts graduate striding purposefully toward them. While I knew that individuals had in history and still could make a difference, it seemed presumptuous, even pompous, to imagine that I could be part of it, that I could be one of them. And if you had told me that I, an Irish immigrant to this country who went to public schools in Pittsburgh and Atlanta, would not only get to be the United States ambassador to the UN, but also be invited to speak at Penn's commencement, I'd have wondered whether you'd been spending far too much time drinking at Smokes. So you have, in fact. I was a good athlete, a good friend, and a pretty good student. But growing up, I was never known for my patience, a prerequisite for tolerating bureaucracy, for my ability to be diplomatic, generally a feature of practicing diplomacy, or even for my idealism, an absolute necessity for a career in public service. And yet here I stand before you, having served in the US government for 6.5 years, still training, I'll admit, for a black belt in bureaucracy, and having concluded that in diplomacy, being diplomatic is a tad overrated. But after 23 years in the real world, and especially after my time in government, I am more idealistic than I have ever been in my life, utterly convinced that individuals can make a tangible difference in promoting human dignity and in making the world and our communities in this country a little less broken. Now, I don't know how many future public servants or diplomats are out there today. A few, good. Hopefully not only the ones who are drinking at Smokes. But I know that this miraculous institution was conceived as a place to spawn a spirit of service. In 1749, when Benjamin Franklin made the case for a college here in Philadelphia, his vision was distinct from that of the handful of colleges in the colonies at the time. The aim and end of all learning, wrote Franklin, was, quote, an inclination joined with an ability to serve mankind, one's country, friends, and family, end quote. That's important. Let me repeat, that an inclination joined with an ability to serve mankind, one's country, friends, and family was at the root of the founding of this great institution. A few of you out there may already see yourselves on the road to answering Franklin's call. You may know you have both the inclination and the ability to serve usefully. But others of you may question whether you have what it takes to serve your community or your country, much less mankind or womankind. I've spent the past couple decades trying to find the ability to match the inclination. In the process, I've worn a lot of different hats. I've been a war reporter and a human rights defender, a professor and a columnist, a diplomat, and by far, most thrillingly, a mother. And what I've learned from all these experiences is that any change worth making is going to be hard, period. But there are 4 ways that no matter the field or the profession, the country or the scale, you can improve your odds of making a tangible difference in a world that needs you. First, and this is foundational, if you want to change the world, start by acting as if. Prior generations have put this a different way. Fake it till you make it. But see what happens if you act as if you, your little self, can narrow the massive achievement gap between our nation's rich and poor public schools. Maybe, if you set out to do that, if you act as if, you will find yourself helping tutor a girl in reading or math at the school down the block. See what happens if you act as if you can fight the epidemic of sexual violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Maybe you will find yourself volunteering at an abuse hotline across town and offering comfort to someone who has no one else to talk to. See what happens if you act as if you can promote LGBT rights in countries where being gay is still considered a crime. Maybe you will take it upon yourself to convince a grandparent or parent why nobody should be denied the right to marry the person they love. I bet if you ask President Gutmann, Provost Price, Chairman Cohen, your professors, your parents, or the mind-blowing other honorary degree recipients here today, they would say that they had done a bit of acting as if in their esteemed careers. Acting as if was how I got started professionally. In the 1990s, I was deeply moved by images of mass atrocities coming out of the former Yugoslavia, and I decided to try to help. But what could I, a history major, do that was useful? I decided, ridiculously in retrospect, that my experience covering women's volleyball for my college newspaper was sufficient for me to at least try to become a war correspondent. When I got over to the region, I'd never before interviewed refugees or peacekeepers or anybody really besides athletes, but I moved to the Balkans and began observing the journalists around me who seemed to know what they were doing, and I did my best to copy them, all the while trying to look professional. And with each story I reported, this became less of an act and more of a reality. There's always a learning curve when one starts something new. In August 2013, I started my job as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. Almost immediately, I found myself in some extremely tough, high-wire negotiations with Russia aimed at removing chemical weapons from Syria, a crucial task given the willingness of the monstrous Assad regime to use such weapons on its own people. One Sunday morning, during the most grueling stretch of the negotiations, I take my son Declan to grab breakfast at a diner. He is 4 years old at the time, and I haven't been able to hang much with him because of these round-the-clock negotiations. And of course, that's the moment President Obama decides to call me on my cell phone. Why do bosses always do that? The president stresses the importance of these negotiations, and he urges me to find the sweet spot in my negotiating posture. Don't overshoot the runway, he says, but don't undershoot the runway either. I say, understood, Mr. President, I've got this. But I've been in the job for less than a month. And in my head, I'm thinking, where the hell is the runway? But I found it. And I'm here to tell you, act as if, and you really will figure it out. My second recommendation, if you want to make change, is for you to make sure you know something about something. The beauty of this is it is completely within your control. You can start by reading more than 140-character-long publications by those who have thought about a problem before you. You can track down experts and pepper them with questions, and then read and learn some more. If you're interested in international issues, you can learn a language, another one on top of the one you already learned here. And when you believe you know something, and may even have arrived at a theory of how change might come, get out to the place where the problem actually lives. Go to the field, whatever or wherever that field may be. The field is where tidy problems get messy, and where you will have occasion to go deep, not wide. Take my move to the Balkans back in the day. This seemed like an exceedingly narrow early career choice. I signed up for a class in Serbo-Croatian, a language with limited reach, even today in my current job. I read dense history books on the region, a part of the world that is said to have so much history it doesn't need a future. And I moved to report on wars that seem far away to most Americans. Even though I focused on an extremely narrow slice of the planet, by going deep, I got up-close exposure to issues that had application well beyond the Balkans, issues that all these years later are my daily bread in working on challenges all around the world: ethnic identity, international justice, humanitarian assistance, refugee returns, peacekeeping, how to reform the UN. One's theory of change quickly gets challenged, though, when you're out in the real world. I'll give you one example. Last fall, when the Ebola outbreak was exploding in West Africa, and dire projections estimated that more than 1 million people could be infected within a few months, public health experts identified burial rituals as a major form of transmission. That's because local custom is for family members to wash and bury the body of the deceased, a fatal practice when dealing with Ebola victims whose bodies can transmit the virus for several days after death. So the international community's solution was to get the word out on this acute health hazard and dramatically scale up the number of safe burial teams. The trouble was, even having done that, the phones at the safe burial call centers didn't really ring, and people continued to bathe and bury their loved ones. Ebola just kept spreading. Finally, though, by getting out to the hotspots and immersing themselves in the data and the culture, and by listening, epidemiologists and aid workers were able to figure out why people were not calling. It turned out families of victims saw handing over the bodies to these burial teams as a breach of faith. Now that's the kind of insight one could not get in a UN briefing thousands of miles away. One could only get it by bumping up against the problem in the real world. Armed with this understanding, a grand imam in Guinea went on the radio to tell people that safe burials were consistent with Islam and urged imams of the 12,000 mosques across the country to disseminate the same message. It was a series of adaptive solutions like this one that helped bend the deadly curve of the Ebola outbreak and will soon help end it. Now, every individual needs other individuals by their side if they are to make a lasting difference. My third recommendation, if you want to serve, along with acting as if and knowing something about something, is that you must persuade people to join you in your efforts. And to persuade people, you have to meet people where they are. It's what Atticus Finch meant when he told Scout, "You never really understand a person until you climb in his skin and walk around in it." All advocacy is at its core an exercise in empathy. I'm not talking about persuasion for persuasion's sake. I'm talking about building the coalitions that you need to serve effectively. Few were as skilled at this as Penn's founder. In October 1776, the 70-year-old Franklin was dispatched to Paris to try to win French support for the American Revolution. He immediately set about learning France's different constituencies and what mattered to each of them. For France's foreign minister, who saw the world in zero-sum terms, realist terms, Franklin drafted a memo arguing how French support for America would greatly weaken France's arch-rival, Britain. When it came to appealing to the French public, Franklin played up the romantic ideal of America's struggle for liberty against tyranny. He also penned anonymous satires lampooning his British enemies in the press. And to win over the elite, he never passed up an invitation to a swank dinner party or salon, leading another American diplomat to complain that Franklin was, quote, more devoted to pleasure than would become even a young man in his station, end quote. But the diplomat missed the point. Franklin was working the room. When he discovered, after wearing a fur hat one day, that the French saw it as a sign of his American down-to-earth authenticity, Franklin took to wearing it whenever he went out in public. So what if the hat was Canadian? Franklin was working his brand. The point is not that Franklin was cynical. He was a true believer in the idea of American independence, and he made extraordinary sacrifices in fighting for it. Indeed, when he was in Paris pounding the pavement, his own city of Philadelphia was sacked, his home looted, and the university he founded, your university, turned into a barracks for occupying British troops. The point is that Franklin knew that to win over the French, he had to meet them where they were. If he had not succeeded, and he succeeded gloriously, winning the support of each key French constituency he targeted, America may well have never won its independence, and Penn might still be a British barracks. Wouldn't that be awkward? One factor behind Franklin's success was simply that he was in Paris. In Franklin, the French saw the living, breathing embodiment of a revolution that otherwise might have seemed far away and insignificant. That brings me to my final recommendation. Humanize your cause. Don't take for granted that the worthiness of your cause will win you allies. Bring it down to a scale that people can relate to. This is particularly challenging in times like ours, in which we are bombarded with an endless stream of atrocities, injustices, and inequalities, flashing across the big and small screens we live in front of, and coming at us through internet pages that refresh every few seconds with just the latest bad news. It is no wonder our nerve endings are battered and our empathy muscles so worn out. I face this challenge every day in my job at the United Nations. Even at the UN Security Council, whose job it is to help resolve conflicts, you can often sense the detachment with which diplomats read off their statements and recycle the same empty condemnations, with no expectations of changing the facts on the ground. Last fall, President Obama managed to help humanize the Ebola crisis with a simple gesture. After a Liberian man, Thomas Duncan, arrived in the United States with the first case of Ebola, some people in our country allowed their fears to get the better of them. Some called for our government to seal the borders and even to prevent desperately needed American nurses and doctors from volunteering for the relief effort, though the experts were adamant that the epidemic had to be beaten at its source. And some leaders, including several not all that far from here, imposed policies that called for quarantining everyone who had returned from the region. It was at the peak of that hysteria, which you all remember well, that President Obama invited to the White House Nina Pham, the Dallas nurse who'd been infected caring for Mr. Duncan and who had just recovered. As Ms. Pham stood in the Oval Office, free of the disease, but stigmatized as all Ebola survivors were as a potential carrier, the president did something very simple. He gave her a hug. It wasn't only Americans who saw that embrace. It was the hug heard around the world. When at the president's request, I traveled to the Ebola-affected countries a week later, people were still marveling about that hug. Victims who had beaten the virus but been cast out by terrified communities felt that America had hugged them too. Those who feared, feared less. Part of humanizing means not only humanizing the bad news, but humanizing those who bring light to the dark places. People who, against all odds, are building that human dignity right back up, no matter the obstacles. Few groups on today's planet are more sinister than Boko Haram, the violent extremists in Nigeria who have kidnapped and enslaved thousands of women and girls and forced a child as young as 7 to blow herself up in a crowded marketplace. In February 2014, Boko Haram raided the northern Nigerian village of Izga, killing more than 100 people and abducting scores more, including 16-year-old Binta Ibrahim and her sisters. They were taken to a neighboring village where Binta recognized 3 child captives from her village, a 2-year-old named Matthew and 2 4-year-olds, Elijah and Maryam. Separated from their parents, they had no one to look after them. So Binta, who mind you was just 16, started to take care of them. One day, the village was hit by an air raid, and the Boko Haram fighters fled for cover. Binta's sisters decided to make a run for it, urging Binta to come with them. But Binta said, quote, "I had these 3 kids to care for, and I couldn't abandon them," end quote. She stayed. Not long after, Boko Haram forced the captives to march to a hideout in the forest. But the 3 kids were so malnourished that they couldn't walk. So Binta strapped Matthew and Elijah to her back and wrapped Maryam around her waist, and carrying 3 children, she began to walk. She trekked for an entire day like that, and then a night, and then another day and another night. She said, quote, "There was nothing to do but rest when I couldn't take another step, and then pressed ahead when I had recovered," end quote. After 2 days, they finally arrived. She saved those kids' lives. A few weeks ago, Binta, Matthew, Elijah, and Maryam were rescued, along with more than 700 other captives. When a journalist caught up with them in a refugee camp where Binta continued to look after these kids, the reporter asked her why she risked her life for those 3 children. Binta responded, quote, "I love them as if they are my own," end quote, pulling her fists into her chest for emphasis. Binta is a Muslim. The 3 kids she saved are Christian. Tell me a more powerful rejection of Boko Haram's perversion of Islam than Binta's love for those kids. And you can find the sources of light close to home too. Around 15 years ago, professors from Penn's medical school noticed a growing number of Latin American immigrants showing up at the emergency room with chronic illnesses or ailments that could have been prevented. Most were undocumented, uninsured, and unable to communicate in English. They feared seeking medical help could get them deported. So the Penn doctors decided to start a program to help this vulnerable community, not just treating the emergencies, but the root causes of their health issues. They called it Puentes de Salud, Bridges of Health. And they began holding walk-in clinics a few nights a week, sometimes in the back of a gas station or a church basement. Puentes relied on a consistent stream of student volunteers from Penn and community members who they trained as promotoras, or community nurses. As the undocumented population in South Philadelphia grew from around 6,000 people when the program started to some 30,000 people today, Puentes grew too. Med students volunteered in the clinics. Students from the Graduate School of Education helped design curriculums. Wharton students gave financial literacy workshops, and students from other schools got involved too. One of them was Daphne Owen. In 2009, Daphne was helping pay her way through Bryn Mawr College by working at a local dive bar, where she made friends with a group of Mexican dishwashers. They told her about how their kids were falling behind in school because they struggled with English. So Daphne did some Googling and found her way to Puentes, where she eventually worked with staff to create an after-school program for the kids of Spanish-speaking immigrants. Today, that program is tutoring and mentoring hundreds of kids in South Philadelphia. And today, Dr. Daphne Owen is graduating from Penn Medical School. Amidst all the darkness of the world, it can be easy to lose sight of all the bright spots. But look around you. They are all around you. Consider this. From 1990 to 2010, the number of people living in extreme poverty in the world, people who live on less than $1 a day, fell by 700 million people. At my last graduation from law school in 1999, the idea of an American state legalizing civil unions for LGBT persons wasn't even on the radar. Indeed, that year, 36 states had passed statutes or constitutional amendments banning marriage for same-sex couples. Today, the same number of states, 36, have legalized marriage for same-sex couples. And if there is justice, the Supreme Court will soon affirm marriage for same-sex couples as a constitutional right across this great land. Class of 2015, you are going out into a world of profound challenges, it goes without saying. But the Binta Ibrahims and the Puentes of the world show us that whether in Nigeria or in Philadelphia, the path to solving these big problems begins with small solutions, and it starts with individuals like you. You can see that in the teenager who straps 3 kids onto her back and her waist and walks for 2 days straight. You can see it in the doctors who notice new neighbors living in the shadows and extend a hand. Penn grads, you have the inclination and the ability to change your communities and to change your slice of the world. Act as if, know something about something, bring others along, and humanize your cause. Franklin was right when he said, the purpose of the education you have all just received is not to serve yourself, but to serve your community, your nation, your world. This has been Penn's mission from its conception. It must continue to be your mission from this day forth. Best of luck, class of 2015. Go at it.
Degrees in course will now be conferred. Presentations will be made by the deans. Candidates are requested to stand when presented by the dean and to take your seats after your degrees have been conferred by the president.
On behalf of the School of Arts and Sciences, I ask the candidates for the following degrees to rise as I call them. Masters of Science in Applied Geosciences, Masters of Applied Positive Psychology, Master of Environmental Studies, Master of Liberal Arts, Master of Medical Physics, Masters of Science in Organizational Dynamics, Masters of Philosophy, Masters of Public Administration, Associate in Arts, Bachelor of Fine Arts, and last, but certainly not least, candidates for the Bachelor of Arts in the College of Arts and Sciences and the College of Liberal and Professional Studies. Madam President, before you stand the recipients of the finest liberal arts education in the land. Armed with their outstanding analytic and creative skills, they are ready to lead the world and make it a better place.
Your ability, coupled with your inclination to do good, make you fitting heirs of our founder, Benjamin Franklin, and Franklin's University. With the authority vested in me by the trustees, I confer upon you the degrees for which you have been recommended by your faculty, admitting you to all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to those degrees, in testimony whereof you will receive the diploma of the University of Pennsylvania. Congratulations. Dean Glant, before you begin, Dean Glant, I have a matter of presidential privilege here. No, you can all the members of the engineering school, please stand. Dean Glant, in our time together, you and I have sent thousands of the very best engineering graduates out into the world. The best are yet to come right here, but they have been the best because they've had the best. The best faculty, the best facilities, and most of all, the very best of deans. For 17 years, Dean Glant has led our School of Engineering and Applied Sciences to greatness. You are a Dean Extraordinaire, and your legacy will long be celebrated by a grateful university. Everyone, please join me in cheering the Dean Extraordinaire of our School of Engineering, Eduardo Glant. And now you may proceed, Eduardo.
It's my duty to ask the candidates in the School of Engineering and Applied Science for the degrees of Bachelor of Arts, of Applied Science, Bachelor of Science in Engineering, Master of Science in Engineering, Masters in Computer and Information Technology, Master of Biotechnology, Master of Computer Graphics and Game Technology, and Master of Integrated Product Design to stand, although you're standing already. Madam President, these are Penn's problem solvers. These are Penn's innovators. Benjamin Franklin is smiling now as I give you the engineering class of 2015.
Graduates, may you use your Penn engineering education to better all of our lives by making possible the things we don't yet know that we can't live without. With the authority vested in me by the trustees, I confer upon you the degrees for which you have been recommended by your faculty, admitting you to all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to those degrees, in testimony whereof you will receive the diploma of the University of Pennsylvania. Congratulations.
I guess I drew the very shortest straw. Eduardo, you're a rock star. Congratulations. Would the students from the Wharton School please stand? Madam President, I've only been here 1 year, but I can tell you that these students blow me away with what they've achieved while they're at the university. And I have no doubt what you're going to do after you leave will be even better. They're poised to change the world. Can I please present to you the graduates with the Bachelor of Science in Economics and Masters of Business Administration from the Wharton School.
Graduates, prosperity, peace, and plenty May you help all people achieve all three. And with the authority vested in me by the trustees, I confer upon you the degrees for which you have been recommended by your faculty, admitting you to all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to those degrees, in testimony whereof you will receive the diploma of the University of Pennsylvania. Congratulations.
Will candidates for the degrees of Bachelor in Science in Nursing and Masters of Science in Nursing please rise? President Gutmann, before you stand men and women who are prepared to lead the transformation of health and healthcare through practice excellence, impactful science, and by championing health equity both locally and globally. It is with great pride that I present you these excellent candidates from the #1 school of nursing in the country.
Graduates, your Penn nursing education qualifies you to be the most caring and capable nursing leaders in the world. May you use these skills to bestow health and hope to all through every stage of life's journey. And with the authority vested in me by the trustees, I confer upon you the degrees for which you have been recommended by your faculty, admitting you to all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to those degrees, in testimony whereof you will receive the diploma of the University of Pennsylvania. Congratulations.
I ask the candidates of the Raymond and Ruth Perelman School of Medicine for the degrees of Doctor of Medicine, Master of Bioethics, Master of Public Health, Master of Science in Clinical Epidemiology, Master of Sciences in Translational Research, Master of Sciences in Health Policy Research to please rise. Madam President, our school was the first school of medicine in the United States, founded in 1765. This is our 250th anniversary. I am pleased to report that we're not only the first school, but still the best school in the world. Our candidates combine science, humanity, and professionalism in the service of their fellow citizens. I am pleased to present the candidates from the Raymond and Ruth Perelman School of Medicine.
Graduates, may your hands heal. May your minds find new ways to cure and to care. And may your hearts forever bring compassion and kindness to bear. With the authority vested in me by the trustees, I confer upon you, the great future healers of the world, the degrees for which you have been recommended by your faculty, admitting you to all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to those degrees, in testimony whereof you will receive the diploma of the University of Pennsylvania. Congratulations.
With the candidates for the degrees of Master of Comparative Law, Master of Law, Juris Doctor, and Doctor of Science of Laws, please stand. Madam President, I present to you the young men and women who will follow in the footsteps of Samantha Power, Lee Bollinger, and Cass Sunstein in changing our world through reform of our legal systems.
Graduates, our university motto wisely proclaims that laws without morals are useless. I know you will do well remembering the highest calling of the legal profession, to do good. We wish you well by doing good in the world. and with the authority vested in me by the trustees, I confer upon you the degrees for which you have been recommended by your faculty, admitting you to all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to those degrees, in testimony whereof you will receive the diploma of the University of Pennsylvania. Thank you and congratulations.
Madam President, on behalf of the great School of Design, and with great confidence in their skill and sense of purpose, I ask the 251 candidates for the following degrees to rise: Master of Architecture, Master of City and Regional Planning, Master of Fine Arts, Master of Science in Historic Preservation, Master of Landscape Architecture, and Master of Spatial Analytics. Madam President, with passion and purpose, they will bring to communities around the world value-creating design, transformative and safe infrastructure, a sense of beauty, and a resilient and more equitable future.
Graduates. Graduates, you will cultivate beauty, you will create community, and you will build harmony. May you always be inspired by the heritage of this beautiful campus and the education you have earned here. So, with the authority vested in me by the trustees, I confer upon you the degrees for which you have been recommended by your faculty, admitting you to all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to those degrees, in testimony whereof you will receive the diploma of the University of Pennsylvania. Congratulations.
Would the candidates from the Dental School for the degree of Doctor of Dental Medicine, the Doctor of Science in Dentistry, the first time we've actually given it this year, and the Masters in Science in Oral Biology please be upstanding? Madam President, not only is this a group of very intelligent, very skillful dentists, but they're also extremely caring, and they will be the leaders of dentistry going forward into the future.
Graduates, oral health is fundamental to good health. I needn't tell you that, but the world needs you. May your Penn education and the Penn spirit of service enable you to bring smiles of health to patients around the world. With the authority vested in me by the trustees, I confer upon you the degrees for which you have been recommended by your faculty, admitting you to all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to those degrees, in testimony whereof you will receive the diploma of the University of Pennsylvania. Congratulations.
Will the candidates from the School of Veterinary Medicine for the degree of Veterinariae Medicinae Doctoris please stand? Madam President, as I do not explain for the 10th straight year what those special balloons are, I am greatly honored to present to you the graduates of the only health profession whose love and passion for science and healing extends beyond our fellow man to our other fellow creatures and the complex living environment that we all depend on. In the end, there is truly only one health.
Graduates, all creatures, great and small, are in your care. Your vigilance and diligence keep us safe, and the skills you have acquired here will sustain our helpmates and friends. Our gratitude and thanks follow. With the authority vested in me by the trustees, I confer upon you the degree for which you have been recommended by your faculty, admitting you to all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to those degrees, in testimony whereof you will receive the diploma of the University of Pennsylvania. Congratulations.
Will the
candidates from the Graduate School of Education, which is entering its second century, for the degrees of Master of Science of Education, Master of Philosophy of Education, and Doctor of Education, please rise. Madam President, I'm pleased to present to you the candidates of the Graduate School of Education, who will go on to see the possibility in every child, the genius in every person, and who will continue through education to bend the arc of the moral universe towards justice.
Graduates, through education, all things are possible. By your good work, the possibilities will multiply for all people everywhere to pursue their dreams. With the authority vested in me by the trustees, I confer upon you the degrees for which you have been recommended by your faculty, admitting you to all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to those degrees. In testimony whereof, you will receive the diploma of the University of Pennsylvania. Congratulations.
Will the candidates for the School of Social Policy and Practice for the degrees of Master of Social Work, Master of Science in Nonprofit Leadership, Master of Science in Social Policy, and Doctor of Social Work please stand? Madam President, given their unapologetic investment and commitment to social justice, their willingness to put knowledge in service to the public good, I present to you the candidates, the School of Social Policy and Practice.
Graduates, you know the measure of our greatness is neither in wealth nor in arms, but in how we treat the most vulnerable among us. May justice light your path and equity await for all at the end of your journey. With the degrees vested in me by the trustees, I confer upon you the degrees with the authority vested in me by the, there are also degrees there. I confer upon you the degrees for which you have been recommended by your faculty, admitting you to all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to those degrees, in testimony whereof, you will receive the diploma of the University of Pennsylvania. Congratulations.
President Gutmann, founded in 1959, the Annenberg School is ranked as the #1 communication program in the nation. Our graduates go on to leadership positions in the teaching, research, and practice of media and communication across the globe. As you know, as a PhD-only graduate program, I have no Masters of Communication students to present to you today. In lieu of that, however, I would like our undergraduate majors of communication, who received their BAs a little while ago from the School of Arts and Sciences, and our Masters of Arts and our PhD students, who will momentarily receive their degrees from the graduate faculty, to please rise and ask you and the Penn community to congratulate them all for jobs well done. Congratulations.
Will the candidates for the degrees of Master of Art, Master of Science, and Doctor of Philosophy please stand? Madam President, on behalf of the Graduate Council of the Faculties of University of Pennsylvania, representing graduate programs across the university, I'm pleased to present to you this group of leaders who will charge forward in research, scholarship, and innovation.
Graduates, the road was long, the work was hard, but you have achieved the pinnacle of academic achievement. I applaud you for extraordinary scholarship within your field of study, and with pleasure, I greet you as fellow doctors of philosophy. Congratulations. With the authority vested in me by the trustees, I confer upon you the degrees for which you have been recommended by your faculty, admitting you to all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities which pertain to those degrees, in testimony whereof you will receive the diploma of the University of Pennsylvania. Congratulations, Doctors of Philosophy. So, graduates, you have arrived. I want to ask all of today's graduates, all of you to stand so that we can show our appreciation for what you together have accomplished. Congratulations! So we have reached, you may be seated for a few minutes. We have reached the close of our ceremonies, and in one respect, we have arrived at the most important part, the closing credits. Permit me just a few more moments and join with me in recognizing all those whose efforts and sacrifices made this day of celebration possible. Graduates, join me in applauding the ultimate heroes, your parents. And let us thank those very souls of patience and forbearance, the spouses and partners of our graduate and professional students. Great public moments like these call on us to salute our unsung heroes, the truly remarkable men and women who help run this great university with extraordinary care and exceptional skill each and every day, 12 months of the year. Penn's talented and dedicated staff. Graduates, you've seen firsthand that our incredible faculty are among the finest minds and mentors in the world. Please join me in applauding the Penn faculty for the honor they bring to their professions, the excellence they foster at Penn, and the difference that they've made in all of our lives. Thank you so very, very much. And let us also applaud members of the classes of 1990 and 1965 here with us today, celebrating their 25th and 50th reunions. As they so freely attest, there's no better color combination in the world than red and blue. And finally, I'm privileged to officially welcome our honorary degree recipients and all the members of the class of 2015. We are in a new millennium. I officially want to welcome you into the amazing community of Penn alumni. This has been a wonderful and memorable occasion for us all, and as a final favor, I ask that you please remain in place until the academic procession and the reunion classes have left the field, exit through the southwest gate, which is to the left of Whiteman Hall. Please rise now for the dismissal offered by our university chaplain, Reverend Chaz Howard, and after the dismissal, After the dismissal, I ask everyone to join in singing the Red and Blue, to be led by the Penn Glee Club. They will lead us in song, so our song can be heard at City Hall and way beyond.
As you leave this place, many of you will walk back to College Green, where to your right you'll see that most unique piece of public art, the split button. Often one will find children climbing and sliding and playing on the button. Graduates, may you always remember, like children, to cultivate joy, not letting your work, no matter how great its import, take time away from playing. May your vocational climbs and even occasional falls all be undergirded with happiness and joy. And never forget that something as small and insignificant and as odd as a button can become an iconic image on the campus of one of the world's finest universities. Graduates, always remember that it's often the forgotten ones, those with enough courage to be different, those who will walk untraveled paths, who change the landscape of a space. Look at the button and take in that its structure is imperfect and broken, cracked, but certainly not shattered. Friends, may you grow to learn that there is beauty in brokenness. May you leave this place knowing that you need not achieve perfection in order to be mighty. And finally, as you leave this place, remember what the button is surrounded by: the peace symbol to its right and the love statue just up the gentle incline of Locust Walk. May you also have peace and love with you all of your days. Amen, and congratulations, class of 2015.
And voices for the royal red and blue. Fair Harvard has her crimson, old Yale her colors too. But for dear Pennsylvania, we wear the red and blue. Hurrah, hurrah, Pennsylvania, hurrah for the red.